So the sun is shining and I've got my picnic hamper ready to arrange some gorgeous flowers. So if you want to learn how to create a really pretty summer design, stay with me. So good afternoon and welcome back to another tutorial. If you haven't been here before, my name is Sharon and I'm going to show you how to make a lovely arrangement in this picnic hamper. Now I've had this for a little while and it was designed for arranging flowers in. It's not really strong enough to put any food or plates or cutlery in. It works really well for a design where the flowers are almost peeking out or cascading out and over the sides of the arrangement. So I'm going to start by placing my floral foam in the middle, and because it's quite a deep container, I've secured in the middle just a spare piece of floral foam, and that's going to help raise up the foam that I'm going to use to put my flowers into. So today I'm using the green floral foam. If you don't like using foam, then please pop back and have a look at other designs on the channel, because there's lots of designs where I only use wire mesh or pin holders to show you a more environmentally friendly option. And I've got about half a block that's already been taped into the container, and the foam on the base is really only there to elevate my floral foam. You could sit your foam deep inside the basket and have the flowers cascading out the side, but for the design that I have in mind, I would rather have my foam raised up above the container. Now what I'm also going to do is just use a kebab stick. So this is an ordinary kebab stick that you would get in the summer to use on your barbecue, and I'm going to use that to sort of almost prop up the lid of my basket, so that I've got plenty of room to arrange inside. I've got another one ready to pop on the opposite side of the container, and that is going to hold the lid of my little picnic hamper away from my fresh flowers and hopefully not cause any damage. If I feel at the end that I've raised it up a little bit too high, then I can cut those kebab sticks shorter and we can lower the lid. But a really simple placement of foam just to hold my mechanics into place. And this design probably isn't suitable to be moved around, so you really need to think about doing this in situ. It's not the best for carrying and giving to somebody as a gift, but it would work so well if you're doing an exhibition or a shop window, or you're looking to do something a bit different. Now my first foliage today is going to be some asparagus fern. Now I would say this is probably a florist material, although if you're lucky enough to have it in the garden, then it's going to work really well to create the width of my design, and it's a really soft floaty greenery that's really going to give me that soft summertime feel that I'm looking for. I'm going to drape a few pieces down over the front, and I'm just really going to start getting a little bit of an outline shape and some structure into place. Now we've recently introduced into the Etsy store, and I'll just link it below, a handout or a guide, a step-by-step instructional guide to go with each design that we are creating. Although there's only me, so it's I'm creating. I don't know where the we came from, but I create a handout to go with each design. You can download it or you can print it off, and then you can use it as a reference guide should you ever decide to recreate any of these arrangements. Now the asparagus fern gives it a really soft look. It's got a beautiful lightweight texture to it, and it's one that I really enjoy working with. And just to give some added texture and a bit of a variety in colour, I'm now going to introduce some ordinary trailing ivy. Isn't that fabulous? And that might give you a little bit of a clue into what colour flowers I'm going to be using. I've been really attracted to the flowers that are growing sort of down the sides of the road, in the hedgerows at the moment. And there's a lot of what I would refer to as a dog daisy, which is a white daisy with a lovely vibrant yellow centre. And there's lots of what I would call a rapeseed flower, which we'll have a look at in just a second. So this foliage, this lovely ivy with a slight creamy coloured centre is going to work really well to pick up on all the colours that I'm working with. Now, today's design is fairly symmetrical. It's balanced on both sides, but because I went almost an informal sort of country look to it, I'm not placing the flowers perfectly balanced on either side. I just want that really soft look, really casual, natural look to the arrangement. But you can see I've come right the way through the middle there, from one side of the arrangement to the other. And I suppose if we think a little bit about the length, the overall length is about 1.5 times the length of my basket. So it's fairly traditional proportions. I've got a little bit of ivy that I'm going to keep for later in case I want to fill in. But I do have another foliage. This one is Euonymus, and it's a lovely creamy ivory colour. Nice variegation in there. I'm going to use this more towards the focal point, more towards the centre. I've got lots of wispy pieces of greenery going out to the edge of my design. I'm just going to strengthen that focal point there in the middle with a bit of a larger leaf, and that's really going to give me a lovely contrast and a beautiful colour link there in the middle. I've also considered the colour of my basket. It's a biscuity cream sort of colour, so that's really where my inspiration was drawn from right at the very beginning. Now, if you're living in the UK at the moment, or anywhere where you have meadows and hedgerows, you'll be really familiar with seeing this fabulous yellow flower. This is rapeseed. It's where the rapeseed oil comes from, and the flower tends to be treated a little bit like a weed. But it's got such a lovely personality to it. It's got really little nodding heads that are bouncing back and forth. And it's a one that lasts really well as long as it's kept in water. If you allow the water source to dry out at all, then you will find that the rapeseed will die prematurely. So, beautiful colour, lovely bit of texture. And I'm just going to start the colour on one side and bring it all the way through and over to the other side. This is probably the softest material that I'm going to put in the arrangement today, and softer materials usually work better towards the outside. Now, if you've noticed behind me, I've got a really vibrant topiary tree, very different to the colour scheme that I'm using here today. But the topiary tree behind is from one of the lessons that we teach online. So at the moment we're running 2 or 3 classes on a weekly basis, and I keep saying we, there is only me, but I am running online courses. So if you want any information about them, I'm quite easy to find. I'm sharondower.com, or just comment in the box below, or send me an email if you want, and I can send you some information. This course here, where we did the fabulous topiary tree, is a 10-week course, which is more aimed at flower arrangers using supermarket flowers than commercial florists. But I am also running a hand-tie course, which is going to start very soon, which is aimed more at florists, or for those of you that are wanting to sort of change career or learn some new skills. Okay, so isn't that pretty? And you could, if you wanted to, just keep going on with more and more of the lovely yellow flower to create that really rustic country style design. But I've got one of my favourite roses. You will have seen me use this before, and this one is called Buttercup. It's got a multi-layered head, and it's going to work so well with my colour combination today. I have removed off some of the outer petals. With this type of rose that's multi-headed, it does encourage the head to open up if you remove some of the outer petals. But if you watch me, you know that sometimes I like to leave them on because I love the colour variations in the different petals and the guard petals that are on the outside. You can still really clearly see my kebab sticks that are sticking up in the middle. And what I'm probably going to do is slightly lower them down so they're not quite so visible in the arrangement. and hopefully by the time all the greenery has gone in and all the flowers are in, they will be less visible. But I think I'll make that decision more towards the end. So the Buttercup are starting, and I'm doing almost like a staggered line from one side to the other. I don't want to make anything too severe, too patterned and too structured. I just want a really soft line from one side to the other. Now the Buttercup rose is probably one, again, that you will find in a florist shop. But any yellow rose, white or cream rose from the supermarket will work just as well. Now if we look at this one does have some really lovely green guard petals on the outside, and technically we should remove them, but I really love them, so I'm leaving them on. I know that might annoy some of you, but I'm leaving them on. Right, so one more after this one, and we're getting through my beautiful selection of flowers. Now this time of the year you might have lots of things growing in the garden, and as long as you've conditioned them properly and you've looked after them well, you'll be able to arrange any of those in floral foam. And if you wanted to make this more environmentally friendly, then you could quite easily sit some, this one doesn't want to go where I'm trying to put it. If you wanted to do something more environmentally friendly, then you could quite easily just sit some jam jars or some empty bottles in there, and you'll get a really impressive style. Now I could stop there, but I have got the really pretty dog daisy, which you will probably be familiar with when I show it to you. And if you haven't got anything like this growing on the side of the road, because I have foraged for this today, then a white chrysanthemum from the supermarket will work quite well. And again, if you're in an area like I am, where there's lots of sort of self-seeded weeds or wildflowers, then you could easily use some buttercups. They're in the garden in abundance at the moment, and they hold up really well in an arrangement. So you can do something without spending too much money. Right, a few more. I don't have a huge amount of the little daisies, but enough to create that little meadow sort of feeling that I want to achieve. And I've made sure that I've got them on both sides of the arrangement, so from the left to the right towards the front, and I've made sure that the flowers almost look like they're spilling out of the basket rather than very stiffly arranged all formally close to the floral foam. Just outside where I work is my rubbish bin that gets collected on a fortnightly basis, and just on the side of where the bin is, I've got some gorgeous bunny tails or Lagurus that have all self-seeded. So I'm guessing that last year when I disposed of some of the wildflowers that I use quite often for weddings, they've self-seeded, and just outside the window there, when I look outside, I've got this huge display of little bunny tails. So I'm going to collect them, I'm going to dry them off, because if I'm buying these commercially, they cost me an absolute fortune. So we might see these a little bit later in the year, especially at autumn time, when I'm looking at doing something with maybe dried flowers that I've dried from my own garden or from flowers that we've had in during the season. Now, rather than put them in individual heads, I'm working them in little clusters. It gives far more visual impact, makes them more visible to you when you're looking at the design. And by creating that really loose pattern from one side to the other, I'm going to get your eye to travel really rhythmically through the arrangement. Now, I don't think I'm going to put a great deal more flowers in this, just a couple more of the little bunny tails, and I'm done. But I am going to put a little bit more greenery on the side just to help cover where I said those kebab sticks are. They're almost hidden, but not quite. And of course, you know, the kebab sticks are what we call a mechanic. So they are parts of the design that we don't want to see at the end. We need to hide them, just like the floral foam and the tape we need to make sure they're completely hidden, otherwise it's going to really spoil the design. So what I think I'm actually going to do is I think I'm going to remove them because the flowers are quite strong. If I just take out the 2 kebab sticks, which has held my lid out of the way while I've been working, the lid now sits really comfortably on those flowers without damaging them at all. So for me, that really says summertime picnic. You need to get your champagne and your strawberries out, go out for a walk and have a gorgeous picnic in this fabulous sunshine that we are having at the moment. As ever, thank you very much for watching. Now, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, go on, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell if you want to be told every time I upload a new tutorial. And I look forward to seeing you next time. And as always, goodbye for now.